drawn and the contestants are now known. We asked tonight, do you believe NASA or the NASA lineup has what it takes to win the 2017 general election? In the studio we have MPs Peter Kaluma and Kabando Kabando, the resident political analyst. Herman Manyora, thank you so much, gentlemen, for making time for us tonight. Talk to us. The hashtag is GamePlan2017 on Twitter. You can also text us on 22422. This is your feedback so far. Alinga says it will work out, but they should stop telling us how they will share power. Their unity matters a lot, and manifesto. Talking about NASA. John Karanja, I'm yet to see their main agenda for the youth. For now, only a selfish power sharing deal. Hadi Ahmed, NASA will win 50+1 only if the stronghold, their strongholds are social media, I believe, come in large numbers, because this time they have support of Mudavadi and Isaac Ruto. And Phil Mike Mwangi, NASA needs to fast plan their strongholds, address the revolt in Ukambani and Western, or else they stand to lose. And I'll start with you, Manyora, but first let me read two messages here on 22422. Kinyanju in Kangema says no. Same bus, same driver, same conductor, same route, same passages. And Gure in Langata says NASA don't have what it takes to win come August 8th. Rebellion in Kambani cannot be ignored. Isaac Ruto does not have numbers, and Deputy President William Ruto still the king of the rift. In fact, Jubilee will win with a higher margin, unlike 2013. Manyora, I'll start with you first. I mean, it has been an eventful week. The nominations, again, NASA showing their lineup or announcing their lineup. What do you make of the lineup and the power sharing structure by NASA?
First, I must congratulate NASA for at last making it. Although I must blame Kaluma's people for stealing my phone when I went to witness their big day. And the ODM boys have learned bad manners from Kabando's boys. They took my phone. Now, well, it was a big day. They have done what people didn't expect them to do. Many people thought finally they may not, at the last moment when they come to naming the presidential flag bearer, there will not be 4. There will be less. It turned out there were 5 more. So that is something you need to give it to them. And the power sharing deal, I've heard many people talk things. You see,
although Isaac Ruto said clearly he's not going for the top seat.
Yeah, you see, the so-called power sharing deal, you know, politics is about power. There's nothing wrong with sharing, because politics is about power. And this sharing is not unique to Kenya or to Africa. It happens whenever there are coalitions in the world. What it means is that these people have gone into this as a team. They call it a collegial kind of leadership. It happens elsewhere in the world. And the laws are there. This agreement they have deposited with the registrar of political parties, he will confirm. Unlike the past when they were doing deals that were not quite legal and not quite safeguarded. But Hussein, you will agree with me. Whenever 2 or more individuals come into some contract, even in marriage, trust and faith, without that. So to say that somebody will then turn back after winning the presidency and ignore his colleagues the way perhaps Kibaki did, there are no laws to protect any agreement in the world. And I've said not even marriage. Faith and trust is important. And something else I want to tell Kenyans. What guarantees and safeguards are there the way the people are arguing? You see, under the current constitution, you can be sent home through an impeachment. You get it? So if you go there and ignore Kalonzo Musyoka, ignore Isaac Ruto, ignore Tangula and Mudavadi, they can team up with Jubilee and send you home. You know, in the previous constitution, it was difficult, because if Parliament sent the president home, then the same Parliament will also go home. So people used to fear. Remember the Cartel bill, which didn't see the light of day, which wanted to remove it. Now it is there that you can send the president home, and you as Parliament, it's much easier, and I don't think any president would want to play around with his team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I don't think there's anything miraculous that has happened, the arrangement in NASA. First, what has changed? Look at the numbers of 2013. They remain the same. Is NASA raiding Jubilee strongholds? Because it's not about the 5 people, the 5 men who have come together. It's essentially about the numbers that are trooping to August 8th. And this exactly means that if Jubilee has managed to invade, raid, and even in some instances dominate the so-called NASA zones, it means that you have a reduction of your infrastructure. Secondly, if you look at the importance of each of the players, you know, Wetangula is a leader of a minority in the Senate. There isn't new numbers that is getting beyond Bungoma. If you go to Musalia, the numbers, we know them. For Kalonzo, you cannot ignore the voices you are hearing from Ukambani. And for Baba, you have seen what has been happening, even in the recent nominations. So essentially what you are saying is that Jubilee, the Ohuruto dynamo, the dynamic duo, the numbers that were there in 2013, the rage in Northeastern, the rage in Coast, the rage in part of Western, is that you are the siege, and there is no escape route. And thirdly, if you look at the contract that is being signed, it's a contract of sort of just an MOU. The Constitution of Kenya provides very well about the national leadership, the distribution of power, the devolution of power, and what you are trying to see, what you are seeing in and witnessing in NASA, is essentially symbolism that we want to assure Isaac Ruto from Bomet that you have a place of a cabinet position, and that these others will be on the table. The Constitution itself, as a supreme law, provides the template for distribution of power in the Republic of Kenya.
You know, Hussein, let me start by clearing this thing I've been hearing people talk about for too long. This thing that NASA is about power sharing. I want to invite Kabando and other Kenyans who are ignorant of the Constitution to read Article 10 of the Constitution. And what is in Article 10 are the national values and principles of governance. And known to everybody you've been inviting here, Hussein, one of those values is power sharing. So let me make it clear to Kabando that you are going to share this power beyond the 5. In fact, we are going so deep. We are going to do it vertically, horizontally, perpendicularly, diagonally, all directions. And don't worry about it, because I think we must remember inclusivity is also an ideal and a national value in Article 10. It is better to have more people share this power than have two eating it alone and boasting to others how they are eating. So power sharing, Hussein, let me assure you, we are going to do it. We are yet to do it, and we are going to do it.
Does that necessitate, because we had Kalonzo Musyoka talking about need for a referendum, maybe if they assume power. Will that necessitate a referendum?
Certainly not. You know, the next thing I wanted to clarify, because Hussein, you remember I've been campaigning as a lawyer, you've never had me here. The power to establish ministries and name them as a wills is a function vested in the president.
Right.
So actually there is nothing stopping a president working in good faith from even naming a ministry a prime ministry, or even vesting the functions. The power to name and to vest functions in ministries is the president.
Right.
So this debate that there is no premier cabinet secretary,
it's just a name, isn't it?
It is a name.
But we've had the Kalonzo Musyoka talking about, I mean, there'll be a referendum if they assume power. Do you plan for a referendum? For what exactly?
That is, if you want to reorganize the structure of government,
so you want to reorganize
presidential system to a parliamentary system.
That you want to
do. That we must do. We will do it. Because look at my brother Kabando here. Many are the situations we found ourselves in the current National Assembly, where you want a minister in the House to answer to the issues of the people, and it's not there. So we are beginning to think that really parliamentary system or a hybrid is more acceptable than this thing where people are outside.
We've had critics, and we've had, I mean, the tweets I've read and some SMS I've read, many are just saying, in other words, I mean, it's the same lineup in as far as the presidency and running mate is concerned. Would you say it's just a repeat of the 2013 election?
I've heard people saying the same team.
Yeah.
But the same people forget, I don't know why they forget, that even using that analogy of football, when you win against an opponent in football and there's a return match, does it mean you'll always win? Doesn't a team score 3-0 and in a return match they are given 5-0? I mean, you even staying with such a simple analogy, Because politics, much more than football indeed, is a game played around and within a lot of dynamics.
And about numbers, isn't it?
And about numbers. Like
About numbers.
Yes.
I want to look at those numbers. Just hold on to your thought.
Yes.
If we can have those numbers on the screen now. This is the 2013 presidential election results. Uhuru Kenyatta you saw there with 6.173, 6,173,433 votes, 50.07% of the vote. And Raila Odinga 5,340,546. Musalia Mudavadi 483,981. Peter Kenneth was fourth with less than 100,000 votes. Honorable Kabando, you're saying, looking at those numbers, things will not change.
And I was responding to that.
Absolutely.
I was responding to that because you already said things will not change. I have said.
Okay, let him say.
Okay, explain.
I'm saying that things will change.
Okay.
And they change drastically for the better. If you had the figures of ANC and the code in 2013, you come to 47% against 50 plus 1 of Jubilee. And then we have to interrogate the recent registration of voters, unless you really want to deceive yourself.
So you think things will change, but by changing you mean Jubilee will get more votes now?
Absolutely.
Will get more votes.
I was responding to that.
Whether you are going to Kwale, or you are going to Masabit, or you are going to the troops of NASA, if you're in Wajir or Masabit or in Kwale, the indicator is that the house of NASA is crumbling. But if you go to Jubilee areas by 2013 results, it is consolidating. It is escalating, it's growing.
I think we needed to respond.
Unless you want to ignore.
We needed to respond to this, but it is true. Jubilee won in 2013. Well, there are issues whether it was fair or not. Let's say
it is not true.
But is this equally true that this is not 2013? So there are dynamics. It is true, like you say, Jubilee has raided NASA zones, but it is equally true, and please don't avoid seeing it. It's equally true that in the house of Jubilee things are also cooking. You cannot underrate Isaac Ruto's coming to NASA. And a politician of long standing like you, Kabanda, cannot afford to ignore that. A politician of your experience will also know the kind of things that are happening in the North Rift. You're talking about Baringo, Elgeyo Marakwet, West Pokot, with all those operations going on. And some communities split. For example, the Samburu feeling the government is siding with one side. That cannot leave Jubilee home intact. And finally, you cannot add the numbers of Mudavadi to the numbers of Raila and say that is what you will reproduce this year. A lot has changed. And do remember, one of the reasons Raila could not perhaps get the numbers he got was when Mudavadi left him, and some people saw it was lost, and therefore they kept home. Now that he's back, that gives people the confidence, and they will turn out numbers. Remember, because of Mudavadi's entry, there are people who thought this thing was going to run up. I suspect even Raila himself. So now that they are together, and with a fifth principle, my friend thinks you're not the same.
Well,
if I were Jubilee, yes. If I were Jubilee and I want to join Jubilee soon, if I were Jubilee,
thank you very much indeed.
If I were Jubilee, Kabando, I would be worried. Worried because of the things I'm telling you, and worried specifically because there are sufficient reasons to make even the people who could have voted for you think twice. What is going on in this country is enough to send any government home. But had it not been for the tribal nature of our politics, let me just finish. Had it not been for the tribal nature of our politics, given what is going on in this country,
Jubilee would be on by now.
If you just isolate one thing, like the disease that Jubilee seems to be suffering from, denimania, the irresistible urge to borrow. I was just checking and I saw that we are using about 20% of our national budget, 40% of our taxes to pay back debts. And I'm saying I'm isolating only one thing, and I'm saying if it wasn't for the tribal nature of our politics, there is sufficient to send my party home.
You have also said you agree with him that Jubilee is also raiding.
And that's why I'm saying.
So do you think Jubilee as well, the president of the Uhuru Ruto ticket, could add to what they got in 2013?
They could. It's possible. It's possible. But what I want Jubilee from, and I want Kabado to take this message home, is to underrate NASA. Because on the balance of probability, save for a miracle, the rest is for NASA to lose.
Let me just respond very quickly.
Now,
I think we need to be very scientific, Mwalimu.
Correct. Let's go ahead.
Number one, you have a beginning of an analysis. The preamble is 2013. Okay.
Correct.
What have we lost since 2013?
So much.
Let me finish. Is there any empirical evidence that we have lost anything? Number two, leadership in this country is largely defined and shaped by the leaders of communities. When you see a senior leader from Kilifi, a senior leader from Kwale, a senior leader from Wajir, from Masabit, trooping to Jubilee, is also an indicator that in that community there is some discontent with the incumbent or dominating political infrastructure, in this case of the ODM. Number three, don't ignore, and I think this is for NASA to ignore, the fact that the voter registration of 2016 2017 has clearly indicated that Jubilee strongholds have trooped numerically.
No, that's a lie. They just balanced out.
Okay,
that's a lie.
I would avoid talking about that because the register is being
worked on
by the, I mean, when that
audited and cleaned and
right.
Hussein, the 2013 data you are using is a data you should not refer to. Because you remember our position was that 2 million was added for President Uhuru Kenyatta there. But even leaving leaving that aside, Prof has spoken to some things you need to take very seriously. One, when Mudavadi goes back into the NASA fold, I can assure you Western Kenya is blocked for NASA. And I can tell Kabando, I can bet on this. No single MP will come into Jubilee from Western Kenya. It is going to be mobbed. The excitement and the idea that we are already in it. If you go to Coast Province, and I want you to take you back to your 2013, the registration of voters in places like Mombasa, Kwale, Kilifi was undermined by that thing which was called MRC. The voter registration pattern this time has taken Coast very much high up. And let us talk about ideals. You know, Jubilee could get Coast. Don't be deluded that when Mungaro and others go to Jubilee, you have anybody there. In dealing with Coast, you have to deal with the land disputes, land issues, and historical injustices. And you know what Jubilee needs to do, which they cannot do. It's not about titling. Give land back to the indigenous people and you get them. If you don't, you are waiting for, you know, the non-indigenous who have gone there. So Western will be blocked. And Hussein, let me tell you something. We have narrowed the scope of operation of this party called Jubilee. In fact, we have now pushed it into deep Kikuyu and a bit of Nandi. Maasais were not, NASA or as coded as they are today. The Samburus are gone. Elgeyo Marakwet, particularly the Marakwet side, is shaking. Pokots are going. So
and all this,
the faster you understand it, the better for you.
Those are assumptions.
Those are assumptions.
No.
You're making assumptions. You're making
It's not an assumption.
No, it's not reality. And so, I mean, that's the way Kabando is saying. Yours is not reality either. When you're talking about leaders moving from
there's a question
I want to put to him. That is the question I want to put to him. These leaders that we have seen, especially in the coast region and in northeastern region, moving to Jubilee
and Machakos.
I mean, doesn't that say something? Shouldn't that worry NASA?
If Kabando joined NASA today, how would it worry Jubilee? You know, that is what we are looking at. You must look at the stature of a leader and the following the leader enjoys, and whether it is so fanatical you pull along.
Manyola shouldn't worry. It shouldn't worry.
Certainly not. If I were NASA, definitely. Certainly, if I were NASA, I would.
Certainly not.
I would worry if some of my lieutenants and troops are leaving me. You should worry. But what may give NASA comfort is our history. We are used to this idea of many people going into government, and the reasons are always obvious, which we may not wish to mention because some of these guys are our friends. So to that extent, it may not, you need to be concerned, not necessarily worried, get concerned that people are leaving you, ask why, do whatever it takes to retain them, but take solace in the knowledge that they could just be going for a cup of tea.
Okay.
Yeah.
You talked about Western region. We'll look at some clips here. This is from Ukambani leaders, if we can have that. The minority leader in the National Assembly speaking, I think, 2 days ago.
About 2 days, yeah. 3 days.
We would have liked to be involved. It looks to us that the party leader committed himself without consultation. It came as a shocker. Why did Kalonzo accept to be a running mate when all along he had told us he will not play second fiddle to anybody?
Please ignore those statements as expressions perhaps of Mheshimiwa Nyenze having wanted me to be the flag bearer, and I know his feelings. So, but now I have to call him to order.
Right, this is what happened recently.
Yes.
Should that be a cause of concern?
None at all.
For NASA?
None at all.
Especially in the Ukambani region. We also saw Cyrus Jirongo, because you're talking about the Western region, and the Western region being now a block for NASA. But we have seen Cyrus Jirongo and some other leaders talking about being shortchanged again, and that they will not vote NASA. But this is also coming from Ukambani.
Cyrus Jirongo has never been in CORD or NASA. And so when he speaks, you know who he's speaking for. Number two.
But you're talking about you're talking about all the Luhya vote in the back,
Hussein,
all the Western Kenya.
I mean, the block of it will be there.
Okay.
And I can tell you all MPs from Western Kenya are going to be, you know, NASA MPs. That I can assure you of. Now, in terms of Ukambani MP, we deliberately have agreed to some level of, you know, restraint and committee. But we know what is happening. We must take solace in the fact that, you know, the Deputy President, Kalonzo Musyoka, is speaking in the way he's speaking. Because this thing was negotiated among principals. There is a time it left the team we created to do it. And what I want to assure you about is that there is a reason as to why we moved from vice president to deputy president. Okay. Remember, when the president is away, the deputy president is a president. You don't need any drama around it. So the question you need to ask Hussein, no, Hussein, don't come in this. The question you want to ask and maybe get answered by Kabando and Prof is, how does this benefit Jubilee? If Kalonzo were to leave NASA, for instance, what has Jubilee to offer him? Nothing. In fact, what he gets for the community is better. But as NASA, we are not even thinking of communities. We are looking at how the arrangement benefits the nation, which is collapsing.
Although you've talked about the Western Kenya region and the Luhya vote being a block for you.
Yes.
You know, we like it when you arrogantly dismiss important leaders of communities. You dismiss a governor from Kwale, you dismiss a CORD senator from Wajir, you dismiss a governor from Marsabit, a very expansive and a remote part of this country with the very minority people who are emerging. You dismiss someone like Jirongo. Now you see even your deputy president, running mate, is dismissing a very experienced, respected veteran administrator called David Musila. He is dismissing his own leader in the National Assembly.
Musila lost nomination.
But the decision was made by Kalonzo.
No, the decision was made by Kalonzo.
It is very clear.
Yeah.
If the decision is by Kalonzo Musyoka, it means that it is not symbolizing the Kaba community. If the leaders of the Kaba community are not involved in this deal,
let me help them a bit. Let's help it.
The point is this.
Are you a leader of the Kikuyu community?
The point is this, Hussein. We are not worried about your problems. We are actually very excited that you are crumbling, and the ripples within your camp are endlessly expanding from individual to individual. We in Jubilee, with Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, the troops are ready for you now.
Under Kenyatta and Ruto.
Yes.
Under Kenyatta and Ruto.
Well,
No.
they have...
No, they are not sure. They are not sure.
It's the same under Raila Odinga.
Nobody in Jubilee is questioning William Ruto or Kenyatta.
We can start by saying Isaac Ruto is questioning Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto.
No, he's
Gideon Moore is questioning.
He's married off.
So let's not go there. So that can be balanced off.
He's not.
You see, I want to agree with you, Kabando.
Yes.
They shouldn't ignore what's happening in Ukambani or Western, the Luhya nation. As a politician who is seeking power, you cannot afford to ignore rebellion.
But we shouldn't be bothered about it, isn't it?
But you can you can understand it and explain it, that whenever people go through a problem such that a pain, you know those stages of grief, they are still grieving and going. Finally, you can always hope that they will come back to the fold.
Still grieving.
As grieving as to why Kalonzo should not have informed them. You know, in negotiations, the final deal is always reached between the principals.
Raila people are not complaining.
When Kofi Annan came to the steps of Harambee House and said, we have a deal, it was a deal between Kibaki and Raila.
Full stop.
Not the deal in Serena, the Rengos and the Mother Karua. So this is normal, but there's nobody from Raila camp who is complaining. How would they complain
But with what has happened, I mean, and some of the, part of that problem we have seen in Ukambani is because of the party nominations.
Yes.
You have also had problems with party nominations in ODM and even Jubilee. How do you see that affecting both Jubilee and ODM in the 2017 election, including the issue of independent candidates?
You see, I think for the first time we are going to have a lot more independent candidates than anybody would have imagined. The reason being that we locked people, for example, in Jubilee in one political party, and they are looking for a valve to exit. So we'll see a lot more. As to whether this will have an impact on the general elections or not, you have to accept that this will affect general elections. For example, in central Kenya, those people who have been locked out have left their competitors, the ones who have won, to run the show. These guys would go home, and you can imagine the kind of that could affect the turnout, because there's no activity going on. The people who excite the electorate are people on the grassroots. Now that you have one MCA candidate and and so on and so forth, that kind of excitement that then will translate into votes for the president may be affected also. And don't also forget.
Same with ODM, with what has happened in
definitely
in the party nomination.
Those things are not good for a party. Those things are not good for any party.
Okay.
And going forward, parties should avoid these kind of things where you have so many people complaining.
Okay.
After the nomination.
Very briefly.
Yes, what I would say is that the possibility of independent candidates coming across the country is there, but there will be fewer in central Kenya. In Rift Valley, controlled by Ruto, the areas he controls. There will be fewer in places like Luo, Nyanza. There will be fewer in Western. The other areas, of course, any independent will go through because of the realities you're talking about. Now, there is the possibility of some limited level of voter apathy, not exceeding level, because to me, the one most hotly contested election is going to be this election. I don't see anybody going to sit home not voting for the president. So I see the apathy downwards, but not on the presidential vote.
You know, we in Jubilee are sharing into that problem. But I can tell you, unlike NASA, some of us are involved in efforts to reassure even the losers. I lost in Mokoweni primaries. I did not complain.
But there are many jobs coming.
Listen, I've actually allowed that guy to...
You've been lied to that there are jobs.
I'm telling you, listen, you know I speak for myself, and NASA cannot speak.
We'll make you minister.
Let me finish. It is important for us to mature as leaders, where we, even when we suspect or even know that there was an anomaly or a problem, that we can propagate a principle of consolidating our support base. In France myself, I'm in a team speaking to some of the most important people in Nairobi, in the part of the Central Kenyan diaspora, who lost in various seats, so that they can be in a template which will add value to the presidential campaign. And we are doing that. And that's why I'm not out there complaining. I'm sitting here facing NASA, speaking confidently about Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto going back to power with the help of Kabando and others.
All right, Kabando MP Mukurweini and Homa Bay Town Member of Parliament Peter Kaluma, our resident political analyst Herman Manyora. Thank you so much for making time for us tonight. Keep talking to us. The hashtag is Gameplay2017. You can text us on 22422. We're asking you, do you think the NASA lineup has what it takes to win the 2017 general election? We're back after this break.